And so it's that time, the Blast Overtime show making a return here for the fall season. Of course, Overtime, where we have a chance to sit back, relax, and pick the greatest minds. Our first episode this season, it's an undisputed, world-class in-game leader, 4-time major champion, and soon-to-be father, glaive. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
All of us.
Exciting to be here.
Yeah.
How's it going?
I'm going good.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Father of CSGO IGLing, father of a real-life human.
Yes.
Which one would you rather have?
I want both. I can't choose. I mean, I've been happy as a father for the CSGO team, and now I'm gonna be happy as the father for a human.
Yeah. But it has been a couple years since you won a major, glaive. What happened?
I mean,
Is that how we started the conversation?
Yeah. Tell us what happened.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And for those who don't get it, of course, I'm saying no one's won a major in a couple of years.
That's true. Not any CSGO players, at least.
Yeah.
Actually,
That's
I
true,
think
yeah.
we should start with a cheers, shouldn't we?
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
let's do it.
To,
I was a bit afraid to
to you
say
and your
that, but
family, and to Blast Fall.
Thank you very much.
Cheers to you.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
So how's your daily life changed? What?
You mean as becoming a father?
Yeah.
Or,
Just like, what are you up to like right now? Like, what do your days look like?
assistant coaching.
Assistant coaching.
Yeah, I would say duo coaching with Sonic while we're practicing. Of course, in official games, he's like taking the big step and standing behind it. He can actually talk to the players while they're playing, but at practice, that's where I can actually improve the team, I think. So every mistake I see, I try to write it down and we fix it the next day before we start practice again. So that's what I've been doing for the last couple of weeks.
Actually, can I get you to like expand upon that a little bit? That the feedback loop of how you do the.
Yeah.
So I from what I get, you don't really interject yourself, like tell Zonic what to do, or Zonic doesn't. You just kind of write down stuff, figure it out later.
Yeah, both me and Sonic is writing down stuff. So let's say I see some mistakes that we're doing, then I'll write it down, or maybe Sonic will write it down, and then we take it the next day and we try to fix that mistake. It could be as simple as a missed smoke grenade. It could be something like a tactic that we need to improve on. Maybe we need to throw another flash. Maybe we need to move in another way. Maybe the same thing is happening all the time when we're doing a special tactic, and we need to find out why is this happening, because when you're watching games and when you watch your practice, you see a lot of patterns. Like you see, even though you're playing different teams, some of the same things can happen over and over again, and you need to try to understand why is this happening and what can we do against it. So that's like the main things that we're doing right now.
What do you think about today?
I think it was good today.
Yeah, it's
I
good.
was happy.
Yeah, that was really not too bad, honestly.
I was happy. I was sitting at the Sonic's PC. I couldn't say anything.
Yeah,
I could just watch the game.
That must be hard, huh?
I was gonna say, yeah. You have to bite your tongue every time when you were
Yeah, but
normally
I
the
just
guy who's
looked
talking.
mostly at Magisk, so it wasn't that hard actually, because he played really well. So.
Yeah, if we were looking just at him, he was having a good time.
Yeah, no, I think they did good.
He always seemed like. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna take the opportunity because now there's Lucky in this lineup,
Yes.
right? And I don't know him at all. So we had the opportunity to talk to him a little bit in an interview, but if you could give us like a few words, like I don't know who he is, how it is to play with him, kind of present him to the world, because I have no idea who that is,
Lucky is actually in the beginning he was really quiet.
Okay.
Probably one of the most quiet guys I have been playing with. Like he needed to like fit a little more into the team, like feel that he can be
Like too quiet.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I would say it's just his personality that he doesn't open up to everyone at the beginning. So he needed a little more time to get used to people, both inside the game and also outside the game. But I'm really seeing now that he has a lot more to bring to the team, and that means both like in the game he takes a lot more peaks now. He wants to do more for the team. In the beginning he was a lot more passive.
Okay.
And outside the game he's actually a really funny person, and you don't expect that when you meet him the first time.
And now you feel
get
like
it.
he's letting himself,
Yes,
be
he's
himself and
letting
having a good
himself.
time.
He's saying some funny things that, I mean, it's
Like the next Zipniks.
yeah,
getting there. Yeah.
yeah. And we have a lot of players like that. I mean, that is, you don't know how funny they are, but when you're playing with them in a team, you actually see it. So
No one would think Dupree is such a funny guy. You can never say.
he is.
We had an interview at the start of the event with Zonic, who said that, like, of all the players who he's kind of like, who's brought into the Astralis system for whatever period of time, that like Lucky is actually one of the guys who's kind of like retaining information faster than others.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's crazy to see how many smoke grenades this guy can remember in so small amount of time, and he just remembers everything. I mean, I think maybe since we integrated into the team and we gave him all of his grenades and stuff like that, we did new tactics, and maybe seen him miss like 2 smokes or something. It's actually crazy how good he remembers. So that's pretty sick. And I think he's learning pretty quickly actually. Yeah.
And his performance and what he can bring to the table already now, you'd say like you're positively impressed, or you feel like he's right where he's supposed to be, or how he's developing.
I don't think he's still a young guy.
Yeah, for sure.
And you can see it sometimes when I watch him play in the game. I tell him that he needs to give constant information.
Mm-hmm.
Not just say it once, I'm holding this, but you need to say it a lot of times, because maybe one guy didn't hear it and they're doing a rotation that wasn't necessary. And
you said that actually earlier today in the green room. We were kind of talking about you guys as the game went on, and I remember you mentioned this where it was like we were watching Pro League, and there was a couple times where like somebody would like get by Lucky in a setup, right? Like they'd find a gap, and then it almost felt like the rest of the team was being caught off guard because that info wasn't
but
there.
It's like an update of information. It's
exactly,
like what Glaive is saying. It's not enough to just say one time. It's like there can be chaos for 5 seconds, and after that you need to say it again. Like he could be under heaven or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. But I think he's doing a good job actually.
I was quite impressed honestly for the
He
beginning.
always looks confident, even in like if he has like a 15 kill game or something, he still always looks like he's making very deliberate moves.
Yes.
He's not jumping back and forth between angles and stuff.
Yes.
So it picks his battle. He believes in his fights, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree.
One thing is I know about you is that you're really good, obviously, at adapting. That's, I think, a big thing with you. And when it comes to bringing in a new player into the lineup, I know your philosophy is not simply to make that person play like your old team, but to try to lean into everyone's strengths.
Of course.
So how is that working out? Like, do you, in your mind, are always comparing this gap of what device's impact was to what Lucky can bring, or do you try to restructure the philosophy of the lineup completely, considering like how aggressive you feel the team is or how defensive? Like, how do you lean into Lucky's strengths, and like how do you make up for the fact that device had this level of impact but was a different player?
Yeah, it's tough to do it so quickly because, as I'm saying, he's evolving all the time. So maybe what I saw in the beginning was that he maybe needed a bit more time. So maybe we shouldn't try to just play too much around him in the beginning. But now, as I'm seeing more, I think it would be okay to play around him on some rounds and let him do his peaks, because he is actually a really good player. And one of the things that surprised me the most with him is that he's such a good rifler as well. I don't think a lot of people have seen that yet, but they will see in the future, of course, that when he has a rifle, he's actually really good with it. And that is not something that every AWP player is capable at. So, and besides that, he's also a really good clutcher. And not a lot of people is really good at clutching. It's actually much tougher than you think to be a really good clutcher. So I'm looking forward to see more of that from him also in official games, because right now I've only seen it in practice, of course, mainly.
Yeah, the scrim god.
Yeah.
So you just signed on with Astralis. Was it 3 years?
Yes.
So what's your 3-year plan?
My 3-year plan? Oh my God. 1 baby, 2 baby? Just kidding. I mean, of course, I want to get back and win a major. So that's one of my goals for sure. My goal is also to bring Astralis back to the #1 team in the world at some point. I'm not sure how fast I can do it, but I will do it as fast as I can, and I will try to work as hard as possible to get to that goal. I did it with my old team and all of my teammates. Me and them together went to #1 in the world, and I think I can do it again.
Do you feel like the Counter-Strike that was being played when you guys were dominating all over the world and the one that's being played now, do you feel like there's a lot of difference, or you just feel like it's details here, details there, but the same idea remains the same?
I don't think there is a lot of difference, but there is some difference on some maps for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see it more on some maps than others, but I think the main thing is that people are better at using utility now. I think that was what we were really good at. It was both with smokes, Molotovs, HEs.
It's your fault.
Yeah,
It's your fault they're all better.
we knew that people would catch up at some point, like with the utility. They would see how we use it, and they would do the same. And of course, some teams are maybe a little bit better than us now, both maybe with utility sometimes, and also individually. So I think I knew that people would catch up, but when I'm looking now and I'm looking back, I think there's of course it changed a little bit, but not too much.
Yeah, I guess the reason I asked that is that I think, for what I can remember also when I was playing, right, you had moments where a group of people would dominate and then they would have a fall off and they would come back and you have this instinct to just going back to what you were doing, what you were winning, right?
Yeah.
Like I think like the Brazilian squad, for example, they did exactly that. They were winning everything and then they tried to go back to that style, which at the time wasn't really fitting anymore.
I agree.
So that's why I was asking, it's hard when you've been winning.
Yes.
You've been winning everything, so in your mind you're thinking, well, I should just do this and I'm going to win again. So that's why I'm actually
totally
wondering.
agree. Yeah, it's really tough. And it's also when you win a lot, you can lose a bit of hunger sometimes.
Okay.
And you need to lose certain amount of times before you get that kind of hunger back. And I think that is where we are right now. And I can really feel like the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we have been working so hard to be able to fix our mistakes and stuff. And I really feel like that we are back to our old selves right now about fixing the mistakes, but of course, we don't have the same team, and we still, of course, we lost dev1ce, which is our star player. So of course, we have some individual skill, and we have a young guy now and 2 young guys actually. So of course, there's some difference in our team, but the hunger is there. That's for sure.
And no team's been as dominant as you were, and has ever been. And you guys did it in late stage CS, which was really impressive, obviously. But do you think it's possible to do that again? Do you think that, obviously, you had a lot of good teams around you. It wasn't like as much like, full credit to NIP. They did what no one could do at the time, but there weren't that many good teams.
We were not playing such good CS at the time.
Right, yeah. A lot of running and spraying back then.
I'm sorry,
when you guys dominated, there was tons of good teams, like a lot of the maps have been figured out a lot. So I wanted to ask you both, do you think it's possible to be that dominant again? And also, even if we look at just this period of online play with Gambit and how they rose up so fast and were so dominant, what do you think it is that allowed them to separate themselves so much from everyone else at the time?
With Gambit?
Yeah, in their,
in the peak they had.
Beginning of the year till first few months.
I mean, the reason why I don't think that it's possible to make like an Astralis 2018 years again is because almost every team has 4 or maybe 5 good players on the team. Back in the days, I would say you could say that some teams had like 2 star players, 1 pretty good player, and then 2 like decent players sometimes. Also some of the top teams actually. And I think we were one of the teams that just had like 5 really good players. Maybe we didn't have like the best player in the world, like Simple back in the days, and Saiwu has been the last couple of years, but we still had like 5 really good players. So it was tough for people to break through our defense. So that's what I think it will be tough to do it again, because all of the players is really good on the best teams right now.
And how do you think Gambit were able to just like come up so fast and kind of like stay at a really high peak for a minute there? I mean, there's obviously the whole thing that it's online and whatever, but that can even be harder in some ways. So was there anything special about Gambit that you saw in that period, or was it not that or was it not so much impressive? It wasn't that impressive, it was just new. Or like, what was it about them?
Gambit just had like a lot of good players. I think they worked so much individually. I think they worked so much as a team. And maybe where some of the top teams back in the days on LAN, we were used to fixing our mistakes when we were traveling and stuff like that, while Gambit maybe were fixing their mistakes while they were sitting online. So they were more used to staying online and working hard online, while the other teams maybe were more used to working hard on LAN, I think. So maybe that would have something to say, but it's tough to say what made them so good, because you could see it on the individual skill, but also just their team play. Their team play was really phenomenal, and it still is. And I'm kind of it's going to be exciting for me to see if they can keep the same motivation
I was going to ask,
going.
do you think they're going to fall now, or do you think they come back and they stay in that top two, let's say 2, 3, 4 conversation?
You shouldn't put too much into practice games, but I don't see like 100% the same Gambit now than I did like maybe 3-4 months ago.
Okay, it's like maybe got confidence, maybe, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's mainly about individual skill. Maybe they're playing a bit different in the play style as well. Maybe relying a bit too much on individual skill. Sometimes when you're not feeling it, it can be really tough. But I still think they're one of the best teams in the world. I think they're up there with NAVI for sure. But I'm kind of curious to see if they're going to stay there, or if they're going to fall a bit down, maybe just to stay around the top 5.
Speaking of NAVI, I mean, you know, we're talking about your guys' dominance back in the day. Over the course of the 4 majors, in with the Intel Grand Slam, the first team to ever pull that off.
Yeah.
We watched Liquid do it in like record time. And now just recently, 3rd team added their name to that list, right? With NAVI.
Yeah.
In this like weird kind of like one LAN, but also at the end of the online period, thought maybe it was going to be Gambit, and then they got passed right before the finish line.
Yeah.
What do you make of NAVI's Intel Grand Slam, like in contrast to your own, or what do you make of NAVI as a team? Like, you know, are they going to win the major? Is anybody going to stop them? What are you thinking?
I mean, that's tough to say. I think there's a lot of teams that could actually go and win the major. I don't think it would be necessary to be NAVI. I mean, Heroic for sure is a contender. A team like Vitality is also a contender. You saw that against NAVI in the final. Gambit is 100% going to be a contender. So I think we have a lot of teams going to be contenders. And I'm not going to say that we are not going to be contenders as well if we get there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunities for teams to right now grind a lot and be able to win the major.
You think that because the major is it is unique, right? And objectively, there's going to be players, for example, Gambit, who are the first major ever. Like, it's going to be their discovery. You think you guys then, with the core that you have, then you have an advantage because you know what it is to play the major.
First major, second LAN. Like,
Yeah,
that's such a huge task.
For a lot of
man.
players, maybe they're just gonna be
First crowd
shaky a
LAN as
little
well,
bit,
yeah.
you know, fear of whatever is happening. For you guys, you know what it is, right? So do you feel like in that context, you have a card that you can play?
I think we are really we have different decisions or different opinions on the team on how much land difference is, how important is land.
I would love to hear that because there's a lot of opinions out there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like some of the players think that LAN experience is really important, and that is what makes the difference. I'm not too sure about that. I need to see it a bit more. I need to see Gambit not getting out of the groups at the major to be able to say, okay, LAN experience is actually, like, if they're losing a close semi-final to a team, I would say, like, okay, that could have been happening online as well.
Same what happened in Cologne
G2
as well. Like in Cologne, Gambit gets eliminated, and no one says, "Oh, I got online." It's just like,
exactly.
Okay, you lost that very tight game.
Exactly, and I mean, Cologne, it was like a studio
sort of LAN,
event. There wasn't any crowd and stuff like that. So how much was it actually affecting the team? I'm not sure. There was other problems with the event also that some of the players were talking about. Some of the PCs not doing too well.
Back in the old days.
Yeah, a little bit.
I got used to that.
And I know that can hurt some of the teams as well. You're used to playing on a really good PC, and then you're playing on a bit of a worse PC. It's not a bad PC, but just a little bit of a worse PC, and it could actually affect your individual level, and that can affect the whole team. So
turn off NetGraph.
Yeah,
that's
true.
Actually, there is no good way about NetGraph. NetGraph doesn't bring you anything good.
As long as you can't see your FPS,
because you don't get the 3K and say, oh, it's because I had 600 frames. But when you miss, like, man, I had 150 in that smoke, man.
That's true.
Okay, you guys are actually, so this is kind of a darker question, okay? You guys are actually pretty good at Cologne, and we're very close to making that final.
That's true.
I saw that interview. You were sweating. You were like, man, I was so close. Like, almost had it, and I know you would have brought the fight in the final.
Yeah.
I forgot what my question was.
Talking about Pro League and why it didn't look like it?
I was into that for a second.
I thought a Pro League comparison? Or?
This is the darker question.
Okay, we're real again.
Did you think at that moment, like, what if dev1ce waited 5 more minutes?
No,
just to
I don't think like that.
No, okay.
I don't think like that. I mean, you mean if then
just to see for everyone, you know, if it
If
had
we
been
are
stuck
stood-
out
would-
until the next LAN.
Yeah. So we could be the same 5 at
least
the
try
next
it.
major.
Yeah,
That's
like,
what you mean.
would that have reignited any like that belief that the system would work if everyone would stick around?
I mean,
No
it's,
point in living in that.
No, I mean, if I had to tell myself those kind of things, I just think it would be so much harder for me to move on from all this, because we need to move on, and I need to move on, and we need to figure things out. What are we doing next, and not think too much. What have we done in the past? Okay, we have won 3 majors in a row. A lot of people cares, but for us, it's like we need to forget that kind of, because we need to move on. We need to get better, and we're not getting better if we're just living like, okay, we won 3 majors. We were one of the best teams that
that's
has
the only
ever
reason
played.
why you're staying together. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. We need to move on, and we need to get better, and that's what we're aiming for.
I have one more kind of really real
staying
hard
really
question
dark?
for.
Could we have some more beer or whatever? Really dark.
So there's this narrative that a few of us have kind of come up with about dev1ce leaving, and that's that it's kind of like a Tom Brady move, where I don't know if for the American soccer football fan.
Football is something different here.
Yeah, the football fans. Tom Brady moved from the Patriots to the Bucks and then won, the Super Bowl, and that was like big for him because a lot of people were saying it was his team before, it was his coach, Bill Belichick. That was the reason he was able to win all this stuff, and he proved a lot by going to the Bucks and winning. That's what it kind of felt like with. I almost said Tom Cruise with dev1ce going to NIP. That's his kind of like Tom Brady moment to be able to prove that he could do it in a different system. And of course, what we see is like he's not exactly himself right now, and that can change, and things that doesn't matter that much. But for yourself as a competitor too, seeing him on a different team, do you also want to be able to prove that you're like that you can build a system that outlives its players? That
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I
because
mean,
you said also just earlier that you had 5 good players during that 2018 era. In my opinion, a lot of it had to do with you as an IGL to make those players have a high average level performance. And I think for a lot of us, that was very clear that it was the system that you had a huge hand in, and Sonic as well, and everyone else who contributed, that made the player performances good. I don't really think that you guys found 5 magical players that all just played well at the same time. I think there was, ahead of that.
I think there was a lot of things that people also didn't see. I mean, some players is good at other things than just shooting heads. And I mean, a guy like dev1ce, yes, he's really good at shooting, he's good at positioning, he's good at communication, but he was also really good at figuring out opponents' money, and he was helping me a lot with that, saying they should have eco now, or they can buy 1 AK, or they can't have an AWP now. And when he gives me information like that, it's gonna make my job a lot easier, because I can say, okay, let's just strafe yard if it's on nuke, at least because they don't have an AWP, right? So I mean, of course I want to prove myself. I think everybody wants.
Yeah, of course.
But I don't believe that I could have done the same thing with my system with 4 other guys. I mean, I think the players had a huge part in why we have won so much. I mean, I think everybody knows that it was all of us together that did all this, and also Sonic. So I'm not trying to discredit anyone. I think it was. No. I'm happy with how we have done, and I just want to prove that. Like dev1ce, he wants to prove he can do it again.
Yeah.
I want to prove I can do it again. Magis wants to prove he can do it again. Sonic as well. I mean, that's how everybody is feeling. And I believe some of us can do it again. And you need some good teammates at least as well. So if dev1ce has some really good teammates, maybe he will do it again. If I get some really good teammates, maybe I will do it again.
Everyone's gonna be doing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So everybody has the opportunity to do it again.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to see who's actually going to do it.
It's actually, I find it, I mean, I respect it, right? But I find it funny that you say you want to prove something, right? Because from where I stand, you have nothing to prove.
Yeah, you've proven
Don't tell him that.
Hold on. Okay, I mean, I respect the competitiveness and always wanting to win. That's something I really appreciate.
I don't care what anyone says about you, glaive. I think you're bad, all right?
That's not what it's about, but it's like, maybe it's just about your mindset, where you will always feel like you have to prove something. Because if you don't feel like you've proven now, what do you have to do? Like win 10 majors, 5 Grand Slam? Like, what are we looking at?
You saw his tweet? He said a sportsman has 2 deaths.
Yes.
One when he retires.
Yes.
So you can never give up on that, trying to prove yourself, right?
That's true.
But do you think it's just a part of your personality? Is like a lot of people have already reached a point where they feel like, okay, I've done enough. And here you are with like a palmarès that's long, like freaking infinite, and you still feel like you have to prove yourself.
Yeah.
So where does that come from?
Yeah, I think it's just like I want everybody to be able to know or be able to see that Astralis has been competitive for a lot of years. Not only for the 4 years we have been now, but for many more years. I want us to be one of the best teams in the world for a lot of time. I want me to be one of the best in-games leader for the future as well. Not only in the past, but also in the future. And that is what my mind is thinking on. And the only way I can prove myself is to win more tournaments.
Yeah.
And how I'm going to do it is, of course, by building the system that we already have to something extra. We need to take things in from other teams that they are doing, that they are winning with. And of course, I need some good teammates as well to be able to do it. So I'm kind of course, I'm thinking about myself. And that's why I signed a new contract with Astralis, because this is where I feel I can shine for the next 3 years. And that is what my aim is, that is to be able to win a lot in the next 3 years.
I understand. Look, I don't want to ask you any questions that you cannot answer, but from the outside, there is a bit of uncertainty, like, okay, what's going to happen in the midterm, long term for Astralis? Is that something that...
You mean lineup-wise?
Yeah, exactly. Lineup-wise, with some players, like I know Xip goes in an interview, say, I'm exploring, I don't exactly know. Does that play a role for you as well in like your ability to project yourself in the future and see long term? Is that annoying, frustrating, sometimes hard?
Of course, it can be tough sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'm also really focused, or trying to be focused, because the difference is, in the past, with the 5 players we have been winning 3 majors with, 4 majors with, sorry. 4 majors with, yeah.
Did I forget about the Curie major already?
Four. That one major. 3, 4 majors, right?
Some majors.
Sometimes it's so easy, you just forget.
We had the same contract. We knew we're going to have these players for the next 3 years, or 2 years, or what we signed for. But now it's a bit different. Now maybe I will sign for 3 years, another player will sign for 1 year, maybe 1, 2 years. It's going to be more like in football. I think that's what we're seeing on other teams as well. So I think it will be, of course it can be tough sometimes, but you need to change your mindset a little bit and just be like, what do I have right now to work with?
Okay.
And if I want to win, I need to work hard with what I have right now. If I wanted to just look into the future, then I think my motivation right now would be tough, because I'm not sure who I'm playing with.
That's the point, exactly.
In 2 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with you.
Sometimes you feel like you're all going together towards somewhere, and I mean, I relate to what I was living through, but when you had players around you that you knew would stick with you, then it helped you, give everything you have, because you feel like everyone is going to be with you. Yeah. But I think I agree with you.
He really wanted to stick around, Maniac.
Yeah. I was just happy to be here with the ride. It's like, yeah, you're going to land together. Let's go. You have a good time.
He really wanted to win.
Yeah, that's the difference. And also, he is winning. I was just the after party was where I was shining.
Sure.
Different.
I've seen you on the dance floor, man.
Nice.
We've got a couple more minutes, glaive. I want to, now that we talk about lineup and we kind of talk about, your connection to Astralis and your goal of wanting the organization to shine and prove that you can do it again. I'm going to pull a Launders and maybe take it to like a bit of a darker spot. What do you think, since the inception of Astralis, was the worst roster change for the organization?
The worst roster change?
Yeah, the rotating door of players during that period.
I feel like it's only just gotten better and better.
What part do you think was what was the hardest period? What was the hardest?
The hardest period was probably the time where me and Zip had to go on sick leaves, I would say, because we had a really good team. We were the 5 players, but it was a bit too much at some point for first me and then Zip afterwards, and that kind of shook things up a little bit. And I think that was a pretty rough time for the team, because we wanted just to be the 5 of us and Sonic, of course, and we wanted to go back on LAN and play, and COVID came and we had to play more online, and a bit of burnout symptoms for first me and then Zip. That was actually a really tough period. So I would say that was where we were the most unlucky. And that has probably been the hardest time for us, I think.
I think it's actually kind of like a pretty poetic place to end this then, because, the next time that we see you take an extended break away from Astralis is going to be for a much better reason.
Yeah, that's true.
It's been a pleasure, I think, today, seeing you still with the crew, with the team, with the organization, and playing your hand, playing your part in molding what could be this next chapter for Astralis. Yeah. So I think I speak for everybody, man, when I say that, like, we will happily watch you take your next break. And I think that's where we take our break, folks. This was the first episode of the Overtime Show for the fall season. We'll be back tomorrow with 2 more best of 3s and another episode of this. Who's going to show up? You have to come back tomorrow to find out. Thank you for tuning in this evening. We'll catch you guys tomorrow.